The question before us today, how is the pro-life movement doing after the elections? The name of this show is Mr. Speaker, yet I speak for myself. I am Earth Faith. And let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the American elections. We're going to talk about, of course, England. And we're going to talk about the overall war perspective, whether the Russian missile that hit Poland, probably accidentally, or the situation in China. Now, because there were British elections also. Now, of course, I'm here in Bakersfield, California, home of Congressman Kevin McCarthy. Now next year, he's expected to be Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Yet I basically am a pro-life advocate. I'm a musician. My name is Earth Faith, and I represent the pro-life movement as best as I can from Bakersfield, California. Now, today, of course, Nancy Pelosi resigned from her leadership position with the Democratic Party. That was the big news today. Yesterday, Congressman McCarthy, or it was Tuesday, Congressman McCarthy was given the majority of the Republicans supporting him to be Speaker of the House next year when the newly elected Congress takes office. Now, some important things with regards to Nancy Pelosi. No, this is not the end of her story. She is by nature a feisty fighter, Nancy Pelosi. Just because she steps down from leadership in the Congress does not mean that you should think that she has lost any of her power as a Democrat. And of course, she could always get an appointed position on the cabinet of Joe Biden if that's what she needed. But obviously, she's still very powerful in the Democratic House. It's a very closely divided House. The Republicans were just announced that they have at least the 218 seats that they need to win the House. And basically, we do expect Nancy Pelosi to continue fighting for her causes. Now, her causes are basically abortion and gay rights. These are two things that the pro-life movement does not really support. Now, what does this mean? I mean, the question is, what's wrong with letting young ladies have an abortion, and what's wrong with gay rights? Of course, for the pro-life movement, these are moral issues, but there's more to it than that. These things have been affiliated with coincided with the end of the Vietnam War, and of course, American soldiers coming home from Vietnam, some of them with pregnant girlfriends, significant others from Vietnam. And basically, the Korean War had not ended at this time. It's basically ongoing. There's a peace treaty now in the last year or so. But basically, overall, the whole thing is that in 1973, when Roe v. Wade was passed, that we had lost the Vietnam War and the Korean War was ongoing. We were still at war with Korea. The difference now is that basically we're transitioning that region towards a peace. However, it may still look like war. Now, I mention that because, and this is a digression, I know everybody wants to know more about the American elections and the Bakersfield perspective, but this is about Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the House. At the time, of course, where there was the Presidio Naval Base in San Francisco, of course, a military base in Oakland. It was an important place for the soldiers to embark. And basically, that is the perspective of Nancy Pelosi's career was soldiers and the Vietnam War and how to take care of the soldiers. And the Roe v. Wade was also about how to take care of these soldiers because we still needed these soldiers because the war was ongoing. Now the war is coming to an end. We have a peace treaty. It still looks like war, and maybe it'll be a business competition. Maybe it'll be like a Cold War with China, but certainly Korea, there is a treaty to end that. Now, this is the kind of problem we're having. Why does it still look like war in that region? Because, yesterday I listened to one of my counterparts, somebody who does the same thing that I do, except she's in Japan. And she said, from the Japanese, the Americans are fighting the Chinese. From the perspective of the Japanese, the Americans are at war with the Chinese. They used to be at war with so-called terrorists, but now they're fighting the Chinese. What's wrong with America? They don't fight terrorists. They fight Chinese. They should be fighting terrorists. Well, I'm from India. I'm not even from the Middle East or Saudi Arabia, really, which is where all the terrorists were from. But here's the thing. For Japan to align itself so closely with China, is putting Japan into that one China policy where the whole region of the Orient is one. And what we're seeing from Japan is that they are in lockstep with China, defending China. And Japan was set aside as a capitalist country with American money poured into rebuilding that country, which made war on the United States December 7th, 1941 in Pearl Harbor. Japan was set aside as a capitalist alternative in the region of the Far East as some kind of alternative to China, China being a communist country. Now, what we're hearing from Japan is basically, as though they were part of China. Then why does the United States need to include Japan in the capitalist part of the economy? That's the problem there. Now, this is not going to be a further segment on India-China relations or America-China relations or about Japan either. I've said enough about that. Now let's get back to what everybody wants to know. How are things in Bakersfield? Of course, we expect to be Speaker of the House. Now, here's the thing. From a faith perspective, because Kevin McCarthy is a different kind of Republican, he's a more moderate Republican. I just focus on faith issues. Now, there was a scuffle between Kevin McCarthy, Congressman Kevin McCarthy, and Donald Trump. They were fighting for power over that speakership. As a result, there is some, veto type power on some issues by Bob Good in particular, and some of the other members of his coalition who are more closely aligned with Trump. Now, Trump was hoping maybe, trying to run for office in 2024, put somebody more loyal to him into that speaker position. That's not going to happen, although they may have, a lot of influence on Congressman McCarthy. Now, the other thing, is that, the Republicans did not win. There was no red wave that we were looking. They were all talking for a few days before the election about a red wave, and that did not happen. Now, what does that mean for the pro-life movement? Well, it's no big deal. The Republican Party is, and I'm as a faith person, I am not politically affiliated. I consider myself just as the church or the Supreme Court. They're not supposed to be political people. I myself did not vote. I am not registered to vote. But getting back to the question, of course, the pro-life movement is centered in the Republican Party, but not all Republicans are enthusiastic about the pro-life movement. They all, pledge to be pro-life, but they're not all, enthusiastic. That's not the driving force. With Donald Trump, of course, we know it's business, it's the economy, it's money. That's what drives Donald Trump. Um, with me, it is, the faith issues and pro-life throughout the church system worldwide is a faith issue, and there's no way around it. So, getting to the topic about the elections, the Senate, went Democrat. Now, there were 3 votes. These were Trump votes that could have gone Republican with more enthusiasm from the pro-life movement. We're talking about Arizona. We're talking about Nevada. We're talking about Pennsylvania. And Georgia is still outstanding. Now, I really thought that Nevada would go Republican. There's Catherine Cortez Masto. She was the incumbent Democrat, Hispanic female from Las Vegas. And the way it played out is basically, Las Vegas. It's like New York. It's like New York. New York City, all votes one way, and the rest of Nevada voted the other way. Upstate New York votes Republican. New York City votes Democrat. Las Vegas votes Democrat, and the rest of Nevada votes Republican. So it's just exactly like New York City. I grew up in New York City. So this was an extremely close race in Nevada. Cortez Masto pulled it out. Didn't have to go that way. Also, we're talking about Pennsylvania. Trump had sponsored a candidate, Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz, celebrity like Trump. Himself is basically a celebrity businessman. So Dr. Oz it wasn't going to pan out in his way. It was a little, the numbers don't show as much that this was not really a close race, because Oz was never, able to overtake Fetterman in the polls. John Fetterman, who a homeless advocate who came down with a stroke just in the heat of the primary season, and then that became a big issue for the good doctor, Dr. Oz. Of course, Mehmet is his first name. The issue of his religion or his race obviously saw the unspoken question in these times, these difficult times. Now, here's the thing, that this was another one where the Republican base and certainly the pro-life community was not enthusiastic about Dr. Oz, because in the end he said, look, we'll work it out. Either, you can have an abortion, you can, not have an abortion, just, whatever you want, doesn't matter. Let me explain. Abortion is the #1 issue for Republicans or Democrats. There's no balancing act. This is a war, a domestic civil war in a way, over the abortion issue. First and foremost, like slavery in 1865, there's no waffling on the issue of abortion. Now, maybe that needed to be clarified. And the other case was Georgia, where Herschel Walker, basically wants to be pro-life, but basically, couldn't keep it all together in his own personal life. So this is just not not something where we're adversaries. I personally found Herschel Walker to be very entertaining, but the pro-life bankers, the people who write the checks for the pro-life community, just did not fall behind Herschel, and will not fall behind. The big money will not go from the pro-life. He's going to have to get that from Donald Trump and that wing of the Republican Party. Another one, of course, Blake Masters in Arizona, who is basically kind of like Jared Kushner, uh, uh, another Trump candidate. He was never closer than 5 points, I think, behind Mark Kelly, the astronaut, and also the husband of former Representative Gabby Gifford. So the thing was, Blake Masters was not going to be a pro-life Republican, and the real message, I guess Donald Trump, our former president, needed to hear it. He's still running for the Republican Party candidacy, and he wanted some. Hey, let's be honest. Trump was a player in his own day, a celebrity in his own right, always on the gossip column for whoever might have been hanging on his shoulder. But the thing is, Trump needed to hear the message from the Republican Party, and Republican Party took some losses as a party because Donald Trump needed to get the message. Hey, look, this is the way things are. The battle lines are drawn on abortion, whether you like it or not. You don't need to be pro-life. You can always go back to the Democratic Party, basically. But as far as shifting the Republican Party away from pro-life, I mean, that is the bread and butter of the Republican Party. That is the base of the Republican movement. And, good attempt by Donald Trump. He was, basically a champion for pro-life in giving us 3 Supreme Court justices. But these 3 candidates, Dr. Oz, Blake Masters, and Herschel Walker, these were not pro-life candidates. Adam Laxalt in Nevada, he was a pro-life candidate. He lost by the slimmest of margins to Kathy Cortez Masto. Of course, we're talking about Las Vegas, and it's just like New York, as I said, it's really a tough place to sell, pro-life. It's Las Vegas or Reno, for that matter. Not that I am very familiar with the workings of Nevada, but it's my best guess. Now, probably the question you're all wondering again, how about the House of Representatives? Well, there's a slim majority. The pro-life movement feels, I'll tell you, from the inside scoop, what does the pro-life movement think about the elections, since Republicans did not get the red wave? The message is, we deepened our ties. We have lifelong type of loyalist people who will go to the end of the earth for you. We didn't get the big numbers that we wanted to get to support the pro-life movement. That was quite unfortunate, but basically everybody went back to their base, their roots, their beliefs, and we strengthened those ties with people who are in the same beliefs as the pro-life movement, even across racial and ethnic lines, like myself. They did reach out to deepen, strengthen their ties with me as well. But as with anything else, like Herschel Walker, everybody is tested about. You could show up to the party, but that doesn't mean you're a true believer. And those types of things were tested in the case of Herschel Walker, which like Adam Laxalt, who really was a true believer, but he lost. Herschel may still win, but basically is not gonna be a pro-life superstar. We still want his support. We wish him the best, but basically they shot him down like a fallen comrade, from a different part of the team. And that's the overall perspective from the pro-life movement on the elections. Earth Faith here, signing out.